Alrighty. Needles are a lot of fun. Here is a syringe. Okay, here I have some hand sanitizer, Blue. I want you to put some on. I don't know where those hands have been. I know you're a recreational butt scratcher. All right. This here is a syringe of what we call Clexane. In the industry, we call it also enoxaparin. It is a blood thinner. Flick it a couple of times, get the bubble to the top, Blue. All right, get the camera in close on this one. Okay, I'll just put the cap over here. Now this is where, Nadia talked about her husband Craig this morning having an amazing six-pack, bordering on an eight-pack. I'm going to show you my incredible one-pack. All right, this is how we go. I'm going to pinch a couple of inches, Blue, pick a spot, jab it all the way in, stick, no, wrong place, man, wrong place. Leave the buttocks out of it. Just jab it in all the way in, do it, yeah, inject. Oh! No, I'm joking. Oh, no, I wasn't then. And out. Take it out. Brilliant. Thank you for that. This is a lesson, never recap a needle. I'm going to do it. Don't do as I do, just do what I say. Don't recap a needle. Now, who found that easy to watch? Yeah. You guys are kind of sick, but that's all right. Who found that hard to watch? Yeah. Who turned away and couldn't actually watch it? In life, there's hard stuff that happens, and we can choose how we respond to the hard things that happen in our life. And whilst that was a fairly loose, unnecessary example, what it does demonstrate is that some of us can see and look at the hard things and face them straight on. And some of us, we just want to turn away and we want to avoid it. We want to look to one side, or we want to actually turn around and run. And I want to talk tonight a little bit about how we respond to things in life. And before I get going on what I'm going to share, I want to start with, I want to preface what I say. A preface is the beginning of a book, just before the chapter starts, and it's like the introduction to the book. So this is what this part is, the preface. Tonight I'm going to share a story about myself. What inevitably happens when you tell a story about yourself is that it sounds like a lot about the person who's telling the story. And that's all very well and good, but what I actually want you to do is, rather than listen to the story about me, I want you to listen to this as a story about God. This is a story about God, and this is what I'm doing through God's strength, through God's Spirit, is what I'm doing through Him, okay? So rather than listening to it as a story about me and what God is doing, it's a story about God and what He is doing in my life, okay? And all good stories start at the beginning. I was born in Raetihi, a central North Island town. I don't know if any of you guys know that. It's pretty small. When I was born, there were only 3-digit phone numbers. That's how long ago it was. And also there was an operator, so you had to ring up. Put me through to 813, please. I moved around a lot as a kid. I grew up in a Christian home. And I lived a bit in Auckland, lived a bit in Rotorua, lived a bit in Hawke's Bay, a bit more in Auckland. Did my high schooling in Hawke's Bay. Moved to Auckland about 12 years ago to start university. Now, when I was at school, I was reasonably good in terms of what I could do academically. I was in sort of the top half of the class, and one of the things you have to do when you leave school, right, is try and decide what you're going to do with your life. So one of the things I thought, hey, I've got some mates who are going to go apply for med school. That sounds like a kind of good idea. I'm getting some reasonably good grades. So I went to try and apply for a medical school. As it turns out, I really bombed at English. I got like 46%, and thanks to the wonders of scaling, it was 51. So unfortunately, I didn't qualify to get into med school. So I moved to Auckland, and I decided to do a Bachelor of Science in Biomedical Science as kind of as a fallback. At the end of my BSc, I thought about doing medicine again, and so I reapplied. And this time, when I applied, I was also unsuccessful. In the intervening years, in my second year of university, and this is going back to now the year 2000, I went on a mission trip to the Philippines for 3 weeks in one of my summers. And what it did is it opened my eyes to the poverty, it opened my eyes to the oppression, the injustice that goes on in this world, and it made me realize how privileged we are here in New Zealand, in the developed world, compared to, by far, the majority of humans on this planet. We are in the easily top 5 to 10% of wealth on this planet. We do not realize it, and most of the time, we don't feel like it, but we are. And this insight started to drive in me a passion to want to go serve in the third world. And so when I applied for med school the second time, I thought, hey, this is a good way of doing it. I'd become a doctor, go do some work in the third world. But unfortunately, I didn't get in. So what I did then was to do a master's degree in forensic science. So as you can see by now, I'm pretty much a full-time student. And I got into the forensic science course. It's just like CSI. I got a job, worked in it for about just over a year full-time and about 5 years part-time. But halfway through my first year of full-time work, on one of the very few occasions that I can say that God spoke into my life in an almost audible way, he said to me one morning during a quiet time, Jared, I want you to apply for med school again. Now, of course, at this point, I'd completely given up the idea. I had a career in forensic science. I was that CSI guy. And it was kind of a bolt out of the blue. It turns out it was only a week out from the deadline for the application. So I put in my application. The application led to an interview, and the interview led to an admission. And so in 2005, I started first year of medical school. In 2006, I went to a conference in Sydney, and it was a Christian medical conference, and whilst I was over there, I met this young lady who had very similar passions to me. We wanted to go work in the third world. We wanted to serve God with our medicine. She was already a doctor. She was smart enough to get in the first time, unlike me. And we connected really fast. And before long, we ended up getting married. At the end of 2007, we got married. She's camp doctor here this weekend, so, you know, if you injure yourself, you might see her. Sometimes I fake the injuries just to go see my wife. Ow. Can you kiss it better? So life was trucking along, and we've been talking this weekend a little bit about identity. And that was who I was. Up until about 3 years ago, that was who I was. I was the guy who did a master's in forensic science. I was the guy who was in my 5th year of medical school. I was married. We were going to go over to the third world and serve God. That was my identity. I was comfortable with that. In fact, I was quite happy with that. It's what I wanted to do. But then everything changed. And now I'm going to tell you why I will almost certainly never end up in the developing world working as a doctor. This is why. At the end of my 5th year exams, and this is at the end of 2008, 11 months after I'd been married, I just sat my exams and I started to get a stomachache about a week later. It came and it went, and I sort of ignored it a little bit, and I stopped eating just to see if it would settle. But after about 2 days, it hadn't settled. I was down in Dunedin at the time, and we were seeing Hannah's family, my wife, and we went up, flew back up to New Zealand, up to Auckland. Dunedin's like another country, I don't know.